Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Chakudash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth and all his purity. And salutations to all you Akim pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going into the war of Armageddon, which is going to be over there in the Middle East, where the Heavenly Father is going to gather all the armies of the earth to bring judgment upon them by the way of these nuclear missiles and by the way of the chariots, or people call UFOs. So in the news, from this website, thetimesofisrael.com, it says Iran orders materials from China that can make some 800 ballistic missiles report. And it says Iran has ordered from China large quantities of materials for producing ballistic missiles, according to a Thursday report in the Wall Street Journal that said the Islamic Republic is seeking to reestablish itself and its proxy network militarily. Now, China is also going to get involved in this Third World War, because as we know, we're going to get it too. The Lord said he's going to bring up all nations and their armies over there to the Middle East. All nations are the 18 nations that the Most High created in the scriptures. You even going to have Israelites involved in these wars back in, some of those sides. Like, for example, you got Venezuela. They're on the side of Russia. Cuba's on the side of Russia. So when World War III breaks out, you're going to have Cubans, you're going to have Venezuelans, you're going to have different groups of Jake being sent over there to the Middle East to fight, So it says Iran is trying to reestablish itself. So basically they're getting ready to, protect themselves by the way of proxies, Iran has the most amount of missiles over there in the Middle East. They're the most militarily equipped over there in that region, Israel is getting aid from the United States and NATO countries, whereas Iran, they're good on their own. They have an arsenal of over 5,000 missiles. They have cities and bunkers full of missiles and drones, So you got Israel, as of recent, been talking about, or forever, been talking about striking Iran's nuclear facilities. Well, now they're going to strike Israel on different fronts, as well as America, because Iran already declared that if Israel attacks, that they're going to attack American bases, because Israel is getting propped up by America, and everything that they're doing is backed by America. So, Iran is going to attack all the U.S. military bases in the Middle East, which automatically would means tens of thousands of dead American soldiers, and they're gonna have a draft, in the U.S., where men over a certain age is gonna be called upon to go fight in the Middle East, and that region is gonna be the meat grinder, man. Just body parts everywhere, Picture what's happening over there in Russia, but on a wider scale, World War I and World War II combined won't even amount to the amount of casualties that we're about to see. Billions of people are going to die from this war. There's going to be the war to end all wars, where Yahushua is going to return with the chariots, the chariots of the Most High, the chariots of Israel, to deliver his elect out of all countries of the earth, but mainly here from Babylon, because this is where the main destruction is going to be. All the missiles that those nations have is going to gear towards shooting them to America, man. It says the report came amid ongoing Iran-U.S. nuclear talks, which began in April. Israel has informed the White House that it will not strike Iranian nuclear sites unless the talks fail, according to a separate report by Axios. And the talks are failing. They never get anywhere, They'll have it to where they have the talks, and I believe it's Witkoff. They go over there, they have those talks, and Witkoff will tell them one thing, and then he'll come back to America, and the American government will say something else. So they're like, Iran they can't be trusted. And the supreme leader was just daring Trump to do something, man. So the talks is not going to happen, man. It's not going to be successful. So they're going to have to strike Iran. And when they do, America's going to back up Israel when they do it, which is going to cause Russia to be involved, and China and all the nations mentioned in Ezekiel, the 30th chapter. It says, the journal report, which cited people familiar with the transaction, said Tehran had ordered enough ammonium perchlorate to potentially manufacture up to 800 missiles. The material is used to produce solid fuel missiles. It says the material is reportedly expected to arrive in Iran in the coming months. The journal said the shipment had been agreed upon months ago, likely before U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement in March that he had proposed nuclear talks to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And, the reason they ordered it is because they can't trust the U.S., They'll do it for the politics, meet up with them, they have the talks, to appease the masses of the people, because the scriptures say, they shall say peace. When they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction is going to come upon them. People hear peace talks, and automatically assume that things are going to be all good. But no, things are about to get, worse, man. So, I'm not going to go more into it, but, you can see where this is going. And you have another article where, let's see, they're talking about a potential 9/11 attack on U.S. soil. And that's just going to be the excuse and justification for, to give justification to the U.S. government to potentially attack Iran. They're going to, as usual, Israel always leads the charge, just like with Libya and all those other countries, Afghanistan. Israel is always the one that makes the U.S. come over there and take over those countries and destroy them. You see, because they want a greater Israel project where they destabilize the region and take over the whole Middle East region. But the Lord is not going to have it happen, man, because that blessing is only promised to the children of Israel. Because right now, they only have a portion of the true promised land. The true promised land includes Lebanon, it includes Jordan, it includes parts of Syria, parts of Turkey, the whole, what is it, from the river of Egypt to the great river Euphrates. So that's a whole lot of land, man. So Israel wants that, and they want Iran as well. They want the oil, that black gold, but their greed will be their own doom. So this article says Trump officials warn another 9/11 coming soon, urge Americans to prepare now. It says Trump administration officials are sounding the alarm over the biggest national security vulnerability his country's ever seen, warning Americans to prepare now for a possible large-scale attack like 9/11, which is going to be, if it happens, it's going to be a false flag. It's not going to be from Iran or none of them. It's going to be a false flag. And as usual, they're going to blame Biden. It says on Monday, Border Caesar Tom Harmon expressed deep concern during an appearance on Fox News, stating he is convinced that the United States is on the brink of a major terrorist event that scares the hell out of him. One he attributes directly to President Biden's immigration and border policies. That's right. So, of course, as usual, always blame Biden. And Biden, he was just set up to keep the seat warm for Trump, to basically mess everything up so that way they have somebody to blame. These politicians always do that, blaming each other, pointing a finger at one another, knowing damn well they're all working towards the same agenda, man. Let's get the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49. Verse I'm gonna start at I'm gonna start at 15. It says, "For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among men." And this is speaking about the Edomites. They're small among the heathen. When you look at their numbers, they're only 6% of the global population. And that's the number of the man, right? In Revelation, the 13th chapter. Everything that's attributed to 6 is tied into Esau, right? So it says, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among men. And they're despised. The whole world despises Israel. You know, you just had this debate between the mayor candidates in New York City, and they asked them as mayors what would be the first place they would go to, to visit, and they pretty much majority of them said, I will go to Israel. Oh yeah, I'll go to the Holy Land. Shows you how they're all bought and paid for. And then when you go to the comments, the people, they're sick of it, man. They're sick of Amalek. Globally, everybody hates these people, man. Right? So it says, thy terribleness have deceived thee in the pride of thine heart. Your terribleness, man. Let's see what terribleness means in the Hebrew. The Hebrew word there is thapala tazah. Tapala tazah. It says shuddering, horror. So your horror, you've been horrifying the world because you've had the blessing of the sword, which was given unto you by Isaac, to your forefather Esau, because that's who you are, the Edomites. So you've been terrible. You've been horrifying the earth, putting sanctions on people, destroying their economies, invading with your military, destroying their cities, dropping bombs on them. And you've been successful for decades. And now you're thinking, in 2025, it's going to be the same. But no, times have changed. These nations have beat their plowshares into swords, and they're putting hooks into spears. At one point they were weak, but now they're strong, right? So they have missiles. Iran has thousands of missiles. North Korea has nuclear missiles. All these other nations, smaller nations that have been done wrong by America, Babylon, they're all clicking with each other, and they're having an alliance. You got the whole BRICS thing, organization. It was all based on the fact that they don't want America to section them and destroy their economies. You see? So they all got together to do that. But eventually it's going to turn into a military alliance too. Nations going to join Russia and China, to go against the West and their allies. It says, in the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashimashah. That's right. So, Esau dwells in the cliffs of the rocks, going back to his cave days in Europe. Those, Flintstones, those cavemen. That was the so-called white man's state in the Dark Ages. They called them the wild men of Europe. They didn't have clothes. They used to grow fur. That's the natural state of the so-called white man, right? To be an animal. It says that holdest the height of the hill. Yeah, so you hold the height of the hill, meaning what? You're high above everybody else. The top people on the earth is you so-called white people. 70% of billionaires is Edomites. 100% of trillionaires are Edomites, right? The elite bankers, they're all Edomites. They're all Amalek. So you hold the height of the hill. America is only 4% of the global population, yet they make up a third of the world's consumption, which is proof that this place is Babylon the Great. All nations, have made themselves rich to this place. Goods are cheap here, right? They're made cheap in other countries and sold here for a profit. Capitalism, right? So it says, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord. And the eagle is the symbol of the so-called white man. America, Rome, Greece, and majority of European countries have had the eagle as their symbol. It says, also Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished. It shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. Edom is the so-called white man. So the Edom that's going to be a desolation is going into what? Their land. Is going into America. Being utterly wiped out. Right? Because this place is going to be a desert after the missiles burn up all the elements. And it's going to be a memorial to the earth in the future on how not to be, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's going to go into it. It says, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. That's right. So nobody is going to dwell in this place after it gets decimated. It says, verse 20, it says, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. That's right. So this is the counsel of the Most High that he hath taken against you. So the Lord is setting you ass up. Just like he hardened Pharaoh's heart, he's hardening the heart of these Edomites and making them fall into their own trap. You know, the scriptures say the heathen are sunk in the pit that they made. And the snares they hid is it basically their foot is taken. It says, and he hath taken against Edom and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. The least of the flock is Amalek. You know, the tribe of Amalek is the J-ish people, the small hats. And the Lord said, what? I will have a war with Amalek from generation to generation. So this war is still going. It's never stopped. The Most High got beef with the so-called white man and more beef with the Amalekites, you know? And that's why Amalek is the chief of Edom. That's why they own the banks. That's why they're the ones pushing all these satanic agendas, you know? It says the least of the flock is going to draw them out. Going to draw out what? The armies. Because America backs up Israel. So Israel attacking Iran, America will be involved, which will cause Russia and China and all these other nations to be involved as well, which will be a fulfillment of prophecy of the Lord gathering the nations there to plead with them for what they did to his people. In the book of Joel, I believe the 3rd chapter, it says, the earth is moved at the noise of their fall, at the cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea. That's right. So the earth is going to be moved at the noise of their fall. Isaiah the 24th chapter. The earth is going to roll to and fro like a drunkard, because when the missiles hit, the impact from each missile is going to shake the tectonic plates. So picture 200 million missiles destroying America. You know, 200 million warheads just coming here and just exploding all over the place. It's going to literally shake the whole earth, man. You know, and then missiles from America going to Russia, going to China, you know. It's going to cause the whole earth to shake, man. But America's going to go up in smoke. You know, it says all nations are going to see the smoke of her torment from their lands. So all over the world, you'll be able to look up, you know, towards the west and see a big puff of smoke going up in space, man. And it'll be televised. Right, so it says, surely he shall, matter of fact, you already read that. So now let's go to the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. It says, Ezekiel 38 and 2, it says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tabor, and prophesy against him. Gog and Magog is the land of Russia. So the chief prince of Meshech and Tabor is Vladimir Putin. So we're prophesying against him. So, yeah, we're pro-Putin because he's pro-American destruction, you know? So he's the man that the Most High is going to choose to get rid of our enemies, which he's our enemy as well. But the Lord is setting up these devils against each other. The scriptures say Satan is going to be, if Satan be divided against himself, how can his kingdom stand? Because they're all Edomites, but they're all beefing with each other. NATO against Russia, you know, America against Russia, America against NATO, NATO against America. They're all divided, man. And this is all from the Heavenly Father. A kingdom that is divided is weak, right? So Esau's kingdom is weakened. It says, verse 3, and say, Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Shemashah Power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And this is Vladimir Putin, putting Russia back in that USSR state. You know, when the USSR collapsed, a lot of those military industrial complexes, those industries, they basically went out of business. They got shut down. But, now during the war with Ukraine, Russia has significantly stepped up his military industrial complex, revived the Soviet era production lines, created more tanks, to where, they could keep going. This war between Russia and Ukraine, they could keep going for decades because they got it like that. Even America and NATO are reporting that Russia basically creates more military equipment than America and NATO combined. You see? So Vladimir Putin, Russia, they're Edomites too. So they got their blessing of their sword. Just in 2025, they're gonna produce more than 3,000 missiles, man. And it's nonstop 24/7 production going on in Russia right now. You see, so this is Vladimir Putin bringing Russia back up in their warrior mode, right? So it talks about what? Army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So we're talking military men coming in with, the tanks, the Humvees, the different military equipment, the fighter jets, the drones, That's all the different types of swords. It says Persia, which is Iran. That shows you that they're going to back up Iran, right? So Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, and even Persia, Iran. Their military industrial complex is vast as well, and they have them underground. So even if Israel strikes Iran, that's not going to take them out. That's only going to anger them. It says Ethiopia and Libya with them. Which Libya, they destroyed Libya. When they took out Gaddafi, they dropped bombs on them and destroyed the economy. Well, guess what? They're gonna, those countries that America has destroyed in the Middle East, they still got that grief. They still got that hurt. People still alive today that lost family members to those wars. So they haven't forgotten, man. Those Arabs, Ishmael, they're gonna all come together. The dragons of Arabia with the Carmanians, which is those Iranians. They're gonna come together against Babylon, right? It says all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, which is Turkey. And Turkey, even though they're part of NATO, they're Muslim. And they've always said that if Israel attacks Iran, that they themselves will attack Israel. They said that they could take over Israel in 3 days. It says, in the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands and many people with thee. And many people with thee. Because right here, you'll see that China is not mentioned. But guess what? They're going to be involved too. So that's many people, right? China got over 1 billion people to throw at this war. If World War III breaks out, the motherfuckers got more than enough people to send over there to back up Russia, to back up Iran, right? And Iran is allies with Russia. I mean, they're allied with Russia, but with China as well. And all three of them been doing military drills, and they all have military, what's it called? They have military agreements to where if one is attacked, they all will attack, basically go to war for each other. You see, so you can see how Israel, the least of the flock, is going to set up, those armies, draw them out, right? It says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is going to be a guard unto those countries. You see, they're going to protect them. They're going to protect them with what? Weaponry, sending them tanks, sending them fighter jets, sending them whatever they need to help them protect themselves. Missile defense systems, actual missiles, nuclear weapons, you know, sending them military, you know, to train them, right? So it says, be thou a guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people, against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste. So Russia is going to come up against Israel, man. And they've constantly been condemning Israel, you know, for what they've been doing, right? So if Israel attacks Iran, Russia's going to have no choice but to attack Israel, man. You see? So it says, Russia's going to come up against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. So that's talking about what? The elect, you know? Those are that are part of New Jerusalem. They're going to come out from all nations, and they're going to return to the Holy Land to establish, you know, the kingdom of heaven under Yahushua. It says, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. Yeah, so going into what? They're going to invade different places, send missiles, you know, drones, right? It says, thus saith the Lord, it shall come to pass at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And that evil thought will be Vladimir Putin pushing the button. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, which is America, right? America is a land of unwalled villages. It has no protection. And Trump talking about a golden dome, but that's not going to work. Because pursuant to prophecy, it says that in the book of Joel, that when the missiles, when they fall in the sword, they ain't going to be wounded. So you could shoot your lasers at them. You could shoot other missiles at it. It's not going to stop them. Because that's the purpose of Yahweh Bashim Ashah, is to destroy Babylon the Great. Right? They dwell safely without walls and having neither bars nor gates. So they have no protection, man. It says to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited. Because in the spirit, America's already destroyed. In prophecy, America is already gone. It just has to play out. So it's the desolate places that are now inhabited. So America will be a desert, you know? It says, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish with all the young lions thereof shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto God, thus saith the Lord God, in that day when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shall thou not know it? And thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army, millions and millions and millions of people. You got North Korea. They've basically promised to and vowed to help Russia to the end. You know, supplying them with men, supplying them with artillery shells. You know, that's the weak, right? And they're becoming strong because now through their relationship, they're exchanging technology, right? Exchanging knowledge. That's how Russia's being a guard to those nations, man. Right? It says, thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days when I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me when I shall be sanctified in thee, O God, before their eyes. So the Lord is going to get his glory by the way of using Gog, Russia, to bring forth the Third World War. Shoot off those missiles, man. This is how Yahushua is going to get his glory. You know, save the elect from their destruction, as well as coming in and judging the heathens by the way of the lasers from the chariots, man. Right? It This is Isaiah chapter 34, verse 1. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. All their armies. So all the world's armies is going to be concentrated over there in the Middle East. And in other fronts, Africa and Europe and Asia, because as in World War I and World War II, it was fought on different fronts. That's why it's called a world war. But the epicenter of the war is going to be concentrated in the Middle East. It says, he have utterly destroyed them, he have delivered them to the slaughter. So they're going to have all their armies there fighting one another. And Yahushua is going to make his grand entrance as, they resort to shooting the missiles on each other, So the Lord is going to utterly destroy them by the way of the chariots, man. It says, their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And that's going to be over there in the Middle East, You're going to have, plenty dead bodies. That's why in Ezekiel, the 39th chapter, it goes into the cleaning process of the land of Israel in that day, right? Where, it's going to have the heathens in captivity being, employed for continual employment, 24/6, just laboring, just cleaning up the land to make way for the children of Israel. It says, and all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. That's right. So that's going into what? The mushroom clouds, dissolving the heavens, The missiles are going to cleanse everything. That's why scriptures say the elements is going to melt with fervent heat. The Lord is cleaning the earth with these missiles, man. That's why he said he's going to create new heavens and a new earth. It says, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, the mushroom cloud, and all their hosts shall fall down as a leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a fallen fig from the fig tree, which is going into what? The missiles, the ICBMs, falling, from above, falling from space, They'll go in orbit and then drop their warheads on different parts of the earth, Russia has the Satan II missile, the Sarmat 28, that can carry up to 20 and 30 warheads, and it could change trajectory, right? So they're going to come in an arch-like fashion, and, each one of those warheads produces a mushroom cloud. It says, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. That's the missile. It goes up to orbit. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, which is Edom, the so-called white man. So those missiles, they're mainly created for the wicked, Mosai gave Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the means for his own destruction, man. It says, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. So Esau, Edom is the people of the Lord's curse. They like to say that so-called blacks are cursed, that we have the mark of Cain, that we have, the curse of Canaan, and that's why we're the color that we are. But no, that's them projecting, because when you read the scriptures, we're not Canaanites. We're the children of Israel. We descend from Shem. And even the scholars know that. They say that the so-called blacks, the Negroes, they're not descendants of Ham, but it names that all the Africans, from the Ethiopians, Libyans, Canaanites, and the Egyptians, those are Africans, but we are Israelites. We are, the Negroes, as they call us. We're different from the rest of the Africans, right? So, Esau, the so-called white man, he's the people of the curse because the Most High gave him the mark of Cain. He doesn't have that pigment. That's why when he came back in the reincarnation as Esau Edom, he was born a leper, having that pale skin. So he's the people of the curse of the Most High, right? So it says, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made with fat with fatness, with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. This is all going into the people, a representation of the people of the land, right? The blood of lambs. The lambs are the Israelites. You're the sheep of the Most High. So guess what? 2/3 of Israel, they're going to feel those missiles too. and goats. Goats is the so-called white man, right? The scriptures refer to Alexander, the Greeks, as the goats, he goats, right? And even Esau, when you look at their hair, they have goat's hair, you know, and we have sheep's hair. It says, "For the Lord have a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea." So Basra, Idumea is Greek, not Greek, America, right? Europe. This is all, Idumea, right? Edom. Basra is America. That's the chief city of these Edomites. This is the most powerful place on earth, right? And all you Edomites going to get missiles too. Every European country is going to feel the wrath of Yahweh Shemel Shah, wherever you Edomites at. Australia, South Africa, they're going to get hit with missiles too, So it says, "And the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion." So this is the Most High's revenge for what you did to his people, right? For sending them to captivity, for filling the land with our blood. The scriptures say, you should not pollute the land with blood. Blood defiles the land, and the only way the land can be cleansed is by the blood of those that shed it. This is Joel chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land." So this is going to be, the beginning of the Most High's vengeance. Because as we read in Isaiah 34, it says, this is the day of vengeance when the missiles come down. So the Most High's going to gather all of them up in a bundle to burn them in a fire, man. That's what he's doing. And that's when, once he destroy their armies, they're all going to be weak. Now Israel's going to come back as gods. Ain't going to be no fighting back. And even if, they try to fight back, because they will, because they're still going to have remnants of, their weapons and armies left in their lands, National Guards, actual civilians try to fight the Israelites back. It's not going to be it's not really going to be a fight, because we're just going to straight annihilate you, man. Lord's will with the elect, We're going to come down from the chariots. Ain't going to be no hit us with RPGs, hit us with, cannon, because we're going to be gods, man, superpowers. So it says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat, which is the Middle East region. This is why all these tensions are happening. And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And that's what happened. You sold us into captivity, man. And we have been scattered. And you parted the Lord's land. Basically, you took over it. The Balfour Declaration, still in God's holy land. And you Palestinians too, you Arabs, you divided the land amongst yourselves, man. But that land doesn't belong to you. And that's why there's so much tension happening over there, and it's never at peace. Because the true children of Israel, the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, are now back in the Holy Land, right? The land, the scriptures say, if you don't keep the laws of the land of Israel, the laws of the Most High, that is going to spew out, the land is going to spew out her inhabitants. You see? So Esau, Edom, they're over there doing all types of satanic and wicked shit, as well as them Arabs. So that land will never know peace until the Most High sends missiles on it and, wipes those people out, man. It says, "And they have cast lots for my people, and given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink." That's talking about slavery. Them Hamites was paid by the Edomites to go over there in our coasts, in our regions, in our countries, to make war with us, to kidnap us, and sell us off in those slave ships that the Arabs built. And they sold us for guns, wines, and muskets. It says, yea, what have ye to do with me, or Tyre and Zidon and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Tyre and Zidon are Africans, and Palestinians is Arabs. So it was the Africans and the Arabs that got together and sold us to the white man, right? And it's going to go into it. It says, because ye have taken my silver and gold and carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things, the children also of Judah and Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. The Grecians is Esau Edom, the so-called white man. So you sold us to the white man. And they like to say, we sold each other. Oh, Africans, so Africans. No, it was Hamites, Africans, that sold the Israelites, the Jews. And they knew what they were doing. Because when Esau came, the so-called white man, he specifically asked for certain groups of individuals in West Africa. You know, you can look it up. They specifically asked for the Bantu tribes, the Yoruba, Ewe tribes, right, which are all Israelites, that dwell in Africa, right? So they knew what they were doing. It says, behold, I will raise them up from the place where ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And that's what's happening. The Lord is raising us up by giving us his knowledge. And eventually, Lord's will, if we the elect, we make it into those chariots, we're going to come back and return their recompense upon their own head. Enslave them, pretty much. It says, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord hath spoken it. So we're going to have a slave trade as well in the kingdom of heaven, selling you heathens, to each other, amongst ourselves, man. Right? You're going to be property. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. So this is the beginning of that. The Most High is gathering the nations to the Middle East. And for them, before he does that, and as he's doing that, he's sharpening the sword of these nations, right? The mighty men, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the Persians, those are all mighty men. And they're coming up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. So their technology is actually surpassing American technology, man. The Pentagon has ran different war games for different scenarios, such as a war between America and Iran. And they found out those war games showed that America would lose a war against Iran. Other war games also show that they would lose a war against China. So you're not only going to fight Iran and China, but also Russia, as well as plenty other nations. America can't win, man. And they think that, they got their aircraft carriers, they got this Navy, as if that's going to, basically help them having the world on lockdown. That's not going to be possible, man. They're making the same mistakes that the Romans made. Their military was stretched too thin, So it says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. And as all of this is happening, the Most High is going to keep having UFO sightings, the angels, the chariots of the Lord over there in that region, monitoring everything that's going on, working on the minds of kings, In every major war in history, there's always been UFO sightings. So how much more for this war of Armageddon, the war to end all wars? It says, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So the Lord Yahweh Shai is going to come to that region, right? He's going to come to make war against their armies and save the children of Israel, It says, put ye in a sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full, the fast overflow, for their wickedness is great. So put ye in the sickle. The sickle is Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Shai and, the angels, using the laser beams, as well as the missiles, because the missiles is part of the Lord's army, right? It says the harvest is ripe. To come get you down, for the press is full, the fast overflow, for their wickedness is great. That's talking about what? All these heathens, their armies. That's the press. That's the fat. That's overflowing. Yahushua is going to trample them like grapes. You see, it says multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, millions and millions and tens of millions of armies, man. China already got, a 2 million man army. Russia got 1.5 million. America, I believe, got 1.5 million, you know. And you add up the Arabs, you add up all these armies, man. You talking shit, man. Who knows? Over 100 million people probably, you know. It says, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining, which is going into what? The fallout, the mushroom cloud blocking the sky. It says, the Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. Yeah, because the scriptures say Yahushua, he's going to have a war shout when he returns. He's going to cry like a travailing woman, you know? And that shout, that aura alone, Yahushua's aura alone is going to shake the heavens and the earth, man. It says, but the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. Yeah, because as all this is happening, Israel has hope. The world doesn't have hope, man. You know, the only hope you have in that day is that you're an Israelite and the Lord is going to have mercy on you, right? And that's what we're hoping to be part of, man. You know, because there's no way out. There's no getting in a plane and escaping. There is no, hiding in a bunker in America, because this whole landmass will be destroyed. So our hope is in Yahushua, and Yahweh Shem Shah, because the Most High, he's, able to deliver from any situation, man. And the only way out of this is through the chariots of Israel, the chariots of our salvation. It says, so shall you know that I and the Lord your God dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. That's right. So that's when we're going to return to the Holy Land. Ain't going to be no strangers there. Ain't going to be no Jewish people there, controlling and dictating what's going on anymore, man. We're going to enslave the whole world. They're going to rebuild back, the Holy Land as well as the rest of the world. They're going to clean it up for the meek to inherit it. So with that, I'm going to close out and give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh B'Shem Yashar, B'Shem Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth. And salutations to all you Akim Prashinists word. Shalom.